Good morning, good morning.
US 10-year Treasury yield rises to 4.7388%, the highest since January 2025.
As he just said in chat, playbook playing out, failed breakout above. Watching to see if we get some continuation here to do the full value rotation. We are at our area of interest on NQ. Watching to see if we fail here and push below our day origin. This changes the state, and that would drive us down to 28K, I would assume. And ES down to our 23.
Nasdaq turns negative, last down 0.3%.
Sorry, I didn't realize that I didn't actually mark the charts. I just posted the reads and the charts in chat last night. But everything should be on chart now. If you're pulling up my my book, should be good. There you go. Shoot. Okay. All right, let's see if we get this last leg down to our low of value here, just like we talked about. All right, we're good. Interesting. I don't have levels on this chart. There we go. All right, new 15s have opened. Retesting POC of previous candle here. Pushing down into first PT from our pathing. 26. Taking my first risk off here as we push into our zone of interest. I'd like to see 23, ideally. But going to take off a little as we push down, just in case we get a pretty responsive bid here. And then let these run. All right, let me turn on some music now that I've got charts good. Oh,
The S&P 500 extends dropped to 0.5%.
big responsive bid off of that low. Retesting POC here. Previous candle. What's up, Allie? No, I'm gonna play copyright free music.
According to IRNA, the Iran and UK foreign ministers discuss regional developments in a call.
All right, this is a super important area of interest. Let's see if we get the flip and hold here. Really important off of our targeting of our lows. If we can now hold above POC of previous candle and build here, we actually have potential for continuation. Same thing with NQ. Watching to see if we can hold and then go up, or if this is going to fail, look back below and then continue down. Only interested in shorts back below 140 on NQ for a pushback down to a previous day value low if it would hold into 228.08, If we looked below, failed, and now are going to sustain here, that's an upside for me personally. Watching our retest here to see if we hold. Important retest. See if we find this bid. Need to see a higher low buyer, or we will trap this liquidity and then look for the offer below. Bid holding so far 180. See if it can sustain and get over 220 for that, or if this guy fails like we talked about and then looks down. Beautiful bid. Out my first here on NQ off our 180 into 225. Looking for 240 next if we can get this target. Out 2 NQ into that 230, 240. Bro, what is this? Huge. Really nice hold. Pushing into target here. Watching our test into 240 and ES into target here in 250s. This is previous day value high from our hold to previous day POC here, following our pathing and value of our previous candle with RTY helping with that secondary leg here. We would need to get over 25s for more for me, or we will lose momentum here and then figure out directionality. Hopefully that makes sense. This is where we absorbed last, so I think it's a good area to look for a risk off, and then we watch to see if we're going to get more here or if we lose momentum with Russell into these highs and NQ and ES into previous day value high. Everyone on the same page? Understand that this is our full target, and we would now need to shift value for more. Right, we just rotated up value of our previous 15-minute candle after flipping our POC, and we just did that value transition here, right? That's this to this. We now need to see if Russell is going to continue to be able to push up, and we need to see acceptance back above previous day value, or we will rotate back to our previous day POC here. Icon chart. Immediate reaction off of our level. Rotation back down. Retesting our area of interest, just like we talked about. Bounced our lows, holding, balancing so far. Unsure if we are going to stop out here or not. We just started trading into value previous candle. We have 3.5 minutes left on this current candle. Russell is holding the higher low, but unable to breach our pivot. It is just a higher balance here as of right now. We are trying to see if we can sustain above, or if this is going to fail and look back below, right? That's really our only option into these lows. So if we're able to sustain, great. Then we can look for that upside. If this fails, we'll look for this to trap and then reoffer and then go down, right? Like that's the general idea right now. If Russell's able to sustain, I'm more inclined to believe that the upside play is likely to happen. If Russell starts to lose that momentum and push below our pivot, then I would say that the downside plan is probably more likely to play out, right? Just we want market participation for these moves. Again, we're just balanced between this pivot and this pivot on ES, and this pivot and this pivot on NQ right now, while we wait for a understanding. We can see that ES POC is trying to shift on the daily here at this 43. Super important if we're going to be able to shift POC down here into this lower node and then go back up to retest that POC from this morning. So that's basically all I'm watching is what's going to happen here. I would need us to step over 43s and show that interest on NQ for more. Get over like this. Or again, this is just target. And then we're looking for rejections and then continuation down. So again, I'm only interested on a pushback below this after we trap that liquidity. So this would be our arm, and then this would be our trigger on a hold for the actual short if we were going to take one. Until then, right, we were just holding previous highs as supportive and rotating between this absorption at 240 and this buyer at 180. Very clearly that someone is taking in size at 240 as of right now. We are in a balance between 240 and 180. Offer sitting at 460 on DOM. On ES, absorption into 450 to 460. I think that this is copyright free, but maybe it's not. We'll find out. If the stream gets turned off, we know that they lied. Good hold so far, pushing above, Russell leading. Watching to see what happens here on the open of new 15s. We would love to see a sustain above POC to 240 here from value of our previous candle if we're going to continue up. Same thing with NQ here at our 48 to 55. We're looking for a bid to try to sustain above, right? These buyers in these highs ideally are what's going to hold us for that continuation up if we're going to do it. Watching now, right? We're looking in to see if we're trapping above here and then we're rotating back through, or if this is actually going to be able to hold. So keep an eye on your footprint candle to let you know. See these sellers in the lows, we want them to be trapped, and then we want to see buyers then get above that bid and then push from here, right? Should be obvious with what I'm saying. Watching to see how we interact. Beautiful hold so far. Pushing, continuation. Russell leading. See if we can get this sustain here. A bit more volatility on NQ compared to ES and RTY. Those look really good still. NQ just coming back down to our pivot. I'm not too worried about it yet, but we'll see what happens here. Russell and ES still holding. We need to see if NQ is the leader here or not. I'm seeing a bit more pressure now on ES. Buyer holding where they need to on NQ, but if we can't get back over 250, then we have to be a bit worried. Watching our reoffer of 250. 230 holding, which is good. That's where we wanted responsive bids. But if offer now defends 250 and then flips 230, then we rotate back down to 180. If this 220, 230 can hold and we get back over 250 and then bid, then we can retest highs. So watching now, pretty clear pivot. Russell and ES still look fine, higher lows. So it's NQ diverging right now. We need to see if that's going to be our leader for our rotation down or if this can actually sustain. Trapping this liquidity here at that 220, 230. 250 test now. Buyer's still here at 220. Russell and ES still holding pivots, no change. Watching our 250 test again. See if offer lowers. I'd like to really see a trap here and then a pop below 220 and sweep if it's going to go down. With Russell and ES follow through. If not, then I think that NQ is just a bit more volatile, but we're still holding the upside push. And then we have one more leg up, but we'll see. Like, I want Russell up to 36, ideally. 30 first PT, 36 for the VWAP reversion. And then I want to see like ES into that 65 where they keep offering it on dumb. And then actual push up to 72 to 75 for full target on ES. That's kind of the goal here for continuation. Yeah, beautiful hold of our 220, 230 on NQ. Pop back up to highs. This would be your secondary risk off if you're playing off that. 250, of course, your first, and then 280 your second, just to play the range. And then let's see if we can get this flip. ES continuing up. Want to see us push into that offer up at 65. They'll probably pull. That'd be my guess. And we watch to see if Russell can do this full rotation up to our reversion target at VWAP at 36. 30 is our first area where we could potentially lose momentum, so you want to be risking off a little bit, just so that if we do fail to do the full reversion, that you've taken some profit off. I have one runner left from our 222.30 as we push into 280, just locking in 50 points. And now looking to see if we get this continuation with everything else. I have to move charts because things are off, but just everything's following pathing, just like we thought they would. Now just moving charts up so that we are able to see.
Amazon shares jumped 15.2%, set for the biggest percentage gain since 2012.
Okay, level set. And again, this is just our structure from our plan from yesterday. Plan out. That's all. So this is our rotation from our value low of our value that we've shown, right? Back up to our look into our day origin here at 64. So really important test from our basically our hold of yesterday's POC is what this is, which is an auction market theory idea, which is if we see a strong responsive bid off of POC that we don't then have to do a full value transition, right? So now we're watching to see if this strong responsive bid can now hold and then rotate us up for a continuation idea. If this fails, right, then we can look for a potential rotation back through this and then a full rotation down to that poor low at 400, right? But we're just watching to see now because we got such a responsive bid at our look below and fail here and yesterday's POC. What happens? I would really like to see a push above this 64 ideally, and then go for this this flip for rotations back up to highs. But it's going to be dependent on what the rest of the market wants to do, of course. For NQ, similar thing, right? Responsive bid off of yesterday's POC and our look below and fail zone. Now testing into our pivot. It's basically just the gap, right? At our look above and fail now. We're oscillating in between these two zones. So we got our look below and fail, our bid back above, our rotation up into target. Now watching to see if we can hold and actually bid this for rotations back up, or if this is going to fail, look back in, and then rotate back through, balancing right now in this structure. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what we're looking for our next move. Again, this is all just in the morning read and the levels that were posted last night. We did the full breakdown, the failed breakout, like I mentioned in the morning reads on both, right? And we then rotated back down to our battle lines and our day origins, right, to retest yesterday's structure. And now we're there. Now we're watching to see which way we're going to go. Zone up, zone down, right? Really important to see which way we're going to breach. All right, back down to our smaller time frame charts with the same zones. There is a big buyer at 64s currently being taken in. About 1,000 contracts taken in so far. Actually about 1,500, 400, and then another 1,000 lot here. Watching to see if we can sustain or if this guy is going to get a bit screwed. We can see them getting a bit heavy into these highs. We're watching to see if they can hold or, right, this is going to fail, and then sell side will then take advantage of them, trapping them on a pushback below 60s. Right now they're just sustaining, right? There's a seller who is taking in size here from a buyer who's trying to, you know, breach us out. And if they fail, and then we then look below, right, then that would be that rotation back down we just were talking about. So again, just watching to see if this guy is going to get a bit screwed here on a sweeper below 60 and reoffer from the 64 where we're seeing them take in. Full rotation on NQ with that move. Back down to POC of previous candle here. Very responsive with that buyer getting trapped highs. This is our bid at 20s where we know that there is a very clear buyer here. Watching to see our reaction as we push down into this liquidity. This is just order flow. Just watching this guy here. Is he still responsive? Are we still going to be able to sustain it? Or does this flip and then offer? Same as before. If 220 is a bid, we look for offer at 250 and we look to see if they trap. And then if we rotate below, then maybe something shifts. So far, they're still getting taken in into 220. So your first risk off is 250. You're looking to see if they hold or not. Just like this retest will be into like 64 on ES, I'd assume. And then if we're going to keep going down, then we would sweep this low and then, you know, shift our bias to rotations back down. So here's your retest into 64s to see if we're going to put in that lower offer, trapping that buy side liquidity. And then if we push back below 60s, then there's probably something here. Same thing with 250 on NQ. If offer was going to put in a lower high, I'd expect it to be there. So we'll see. Testing into that area now. Watching to see if a lower offer gets put in. Or if we're able to just bid here again. New change, right? Just holding our buyers. This is why you always want to be shorting the secondary leg, not the primary on shorts in a trend, right? Because everything's a pullback until proven otherwise. But you always want to be looking at where that could occur and then framing your ideas of what the arm condition would be and then what the trigger condition would be. So far, we were able to hold where we thought, and we're pushing up to highs. That doesn't mean we're going to break out, but it does mean that we did the full rotation again from where our known buyer was and our known seller is. So it's a balance right now while we are waiting, and we know the condition for the short, we know the condition for the continuation. Are there questions? Are we good? Am I talking too much? Is what I'm saying good information, or is it noise for you? What's the consensus? Are you following along? Okay. all that matters, I think, is this buyer that's at the 64.65 on ES. It's our point of contention. There's so much size being traded there. So I think that we're just playing around with this guy. If we can sustain above, then we're good for probably a pop to 78 on ES, and then 85 is above that. If we flip back below this after failing to sustain on this look above, then we're probably chopped. This is next target on NQ into 310. We'll see which way we go here. Got to get above 310s on NQ for anything more, or this is still just the top, and we're still just rotating between our 220 and our 310. $310 target held, pushing up. Next target would be 345, 350 on NQ if we can sustain on this pop on the look above. $78s on ES again, first target, and then 85 above that. Watching Russell into our high. Still have room up to that 36 to 38 area that we were watching for as a potential loss of momentum as we push into this area. That's still the target based off of what we talked about. That is why we had a bull side bias here, watching to see if we can get this last leg up like that, or if this is going to rotate below, right, and then come back down. Unsure. Watching our look above, want to see a sustain for that push to 74s. Again, first target here into 340 on NQ on the flip of 310. 78s here on ES. Good risk off. Move stops up. See if we sustain. I think the market probably has room up to Russell VWAP off that on that 36, but there is potential for NQ to lose a bit of momentum here into that 24-hour VWAP like Ty just said, which is why this is our first target. And then we look to see if we build.
So in 10 minutes time, expecting the Canadian budget balance prior minus 29.73 billion. Also expecting Trump to speak at the cabinet meeting. We do have a live video posted in the economic calendar. We have posted it now on the feed for those interested.
I think as long as this like 70 area is holding on ES, that you'll probably get continuation up, but expect a bit of a pullback here at our 78 target with Russell looking above, and then we look to see if we then can like flag it out here for continuation on retest into like 70, 74 on ES for a pop-up to 85. Same thing with like RTY holding 29s and then pushing up into that 36, 38. NQ flagging it out here, and then we look to see if we get that next leg. That'd be my guess. I haven't utilized the smash indicator since I made my own. So it doesn't need to be on chart. So I think that's why, is that it's actually not on my chart. The levels that I've drawn are directly on the chart, Jason. Those are the ones that I'm playing. So I'm manually drawing the levels off of our indicator directly on the chart for you to then be able to use. I could utilize the smash indicator for this, and maybe I will in the future to make it easier. Yeah, but I would just load the new chart because everything's done for you automatically. And again, you won't have to worry about this soon once I actually release this, but I'm still updating it. Like I changed things like 5 times last night. So that's why it's not out yet, because it's just, I'm still working on it. So when I like actually release the chart at night, then it's fixed for the rest of the session. But until then, I'm still like actively working on stuff. Is this based on the Smash Lido? I mean, it's based off of AMT, not Smash Lido. It's all just auction market theory. So the levels are very similar to his because it's auction market theory. But I've done it for NQ and ES, and it's fully automated. So it creates our zones, it targets the, it has like, I think 115 different variables that it looks for on a given day, and then weighs them, and then only marks 7 per day on a chart based off of weighting, and then figures out which zones are the most important, and then will put them on the chart, and then creates a plan based off of yesterday's close. It's not, yeah, I'm still working on it, but this will be the next thing that we drop. Once it's out, it'll then, it's basically like if you look at the intraday ideas, that's the idea, right? And then once levels are fully set, you should be able to technically then be able to put it on any chart, not just ES and NQ. Once I have the weighting.
Rise 5.4%. So a reminder, in 5 minutes time, we're expecting the Canadian budget balance prior minus 29.73 billion. Also expecting comments from Trump at the cabinet meeting. We have posted a live video on the feed for those interested.
So let's see. I'm basically just trying to once we're like set and everything's good, it will then automate. The idea is to do this. We'll have it automate at close the new plan. It will then do an update at the end of Globex to let you know what we've done from our morning plan in Globex action, right? It'll give you that update. And then when we go to at our major pivots, it'll let you know which playbook we're in. That's the idea. So throughout the day, it'll be like, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. This is what, the accuracy based off of what we thought would happen. And then it'll do all of that automated in chat over and over and over again every day, right? So it'll consistently self-grade. Right now that self-grading is just on my end as I forward test. but once it's out, it should be doing all of this automatically. And that, like, all of your levels are done, all of the concepts are done, why the levels matter, right, will be done, because you'll understand the AMT behind it, because it tells you. And then you'll have a full playbook that's automated, as well as a full suite of levels and zones that are back tested on 7 years of data. They're not just like arbitrary, they're actually real. That's the idea. Because then that gives me time to then work on automation. That's the thing that I actually want to be doing. It's a lot of work. I wish it was as easy as, like, Claude, build me the perfect AMT indicator, make no mistakes. But it's not. I think I follow him on Substack, Maldito. Yeah. Nice. Yes, that is the goal, Jason. Is that then the AMT
Alphabet
will
shares
be the
extend gain to session
baseline.
high, 5.9%.
That, sorry, the AMT script will then be the foundation for future algos that are on the easy algo side. Yeah. Once I've got this automated. That is the idea.
Canadian budget balance minus 0.31 billion, minus 0.31 billion.
What does your term playbook mean? What is that? I don't understand the question. Yeah, do you see that it tells you? Did you read it? So like this was the playbook for yesterday or for today? right? It says on the bottom, arm trigger target, targeting 2R. So value,
reminder,
fade
we are
value high,
expecting comments from
responsive
Trump
short.
soon as he holds a cabinet meeting. We do have the live video on the feed for those interested.
Fade value low, responsive long. And then it gives you the idea and why. So it's a balance idea. Failed look above, rotates back through value, targeting POC at 433, then floor at 423. Stand aside if it accepts above. So that's a responsive short playbook based off of AMT concepts that's been back tested. And then you'd be targeting this, right? And then it gives you your arm trigger and why, right? And then we also have our decision boundaries, which is also part of our playbook, which is the understanding of which way we're going to accept on the day. Which way are we going to trend? And then these are also really great ideas, right? Accept and hold above, value follows price, bullish continuation, and then that would be our target. If we hold 477, we'd then be targeting 485. Battle floor, our battle line at our value floor. This gives you two ideas, the rejection or the hold, and then the target. Right? And then we also have our understanding of our overall auction state that gives you your idea of why these playbooks are in play. Right? We had a failed breakout up, back inside value, poked 483 above the ceiling, then returned. By law, a failed breakout returns to value and traverses towards the floor at 7423. Right? Which is what we then did today, which is that failure and then that rotation back through value, giving us that low. We then targeted that value low, and that was our exit, and then we went long on the push through our value. Right? So that gave us our entire idea of what to do this morning if all you had to do is read. And that, right, our AMT concepts of, you know, failure to sustain our value high will then be a rotation back through value, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So yeah, and there it's gated, right? So it's we only are looking for shorts in a market that is one time framing down, right? And we're only looking for longs in a market that's one time framing up. And if we're in balance, then we're looking for fades of edges. So it's all gated based off of that. So it's very selective. But we have the understanding of, so like when it actually triggers, it looks like this, right? So this is an arm. So this is where it was looking to potentially take a short at our value high here, but it never triggered because we held, right? So then this became a really good longing opportunity for an upside because we failed to get back in and it never triggered the short breakdown for the rotation back through. So it arms, but if it doesn't meet all conditions, then it never triggers for the actual fire. So like here's another one that
announced
armed.
that models now reach over 1 billion active users.
But it didn't trigger, even though we did get the move down, but it's very selective, right? So it didn't take this, but it's a good area to start watching. So we can go back and we can look at ones that like actually did arm and trigger, and you can see this then allowed, right? This is a arm that didn't go.
Furthermore, OpenAI
arm,
say
and
their
then we got
models
our
now reach
breakdown.
over 2 million businesses.
This was then our stop. This was then our pushback below. And then we got our close back down into value low, doing the full rotation. So this is one that actually did fully play out with our setup in mind, looking for that lower high and then that rotation through value here. But you can see it arms a lot and looks for these conditions, but it won't trigger, right? If it doesn't meet everything. It's gated by VIX. So when it actually does trigger, it's back tested on 7 years of data and has a profit factor of 2. So it is profitable on 7 years of data. But it doesn't meet conditions all that often. So it's very selective. This is us pushing into our potential loss of momentum area into 36 to 38 on Russell. If we don't see continuation here on RTY, I think market could potentially be
OpenAI say work via
Dunzo
Codex
here.
accounts for 99.8% weekly output tokens.
Watching to see if this kind of starts a pullback and a failure to extend higher if we aren't able to show any interest up here. We can see we're getting a little bit exhausted into 80s. But I mean, it's still upside, right? We're still holding higher lows, but if Russell loses momentum, then right, we can definitely show a little bit of a topping here. And then we'd be looking for a rotation back down to our 64 to 60 area, and then potentially, you know, a push down like this if this holds. Until then, right, it's just balance while we're rotating in between these. But something to keep in mind if we lose that momentum on Russell. You can use a lot of the data log from these commentaries and feed it into the project on Claude. Yeah, definitely. There are some people in our Discord that are doing that to create things for themselves. Like Zeno has taken a lot of my commentaries, and what he does is that he saves the transcripts, and then he has Claude then use his trade log and uses my commentary as the foundation for his trades to be like, Sig said this at this point and you took this trade, this was counter against what he was saying at the time, or good follow through, Sig said this in the commentary at the same time, at the same moment, right, that you did this. So it follows his performance and follows what I'm saying to then grade his trades, which is a super cool use of it. Super smart from him. So he just uses the automated transcript that gets made from my commentaries and then plugs that into Claude into his performance log to then create a grading system, which is kind of a really brilliant idea for him. Yeah, like check this out. This is something that he sent me. So like it literally does exactly that. And it like shows trades that are aligned with what I'm saying and like what my exact wording was at the time as his trades are going on. Here, let me post it for those in oops. Right, so like it tracks his trades and then literally what I'm saying at the time. Yeah, YouTube. It automatically does it because I have it turned on. So YouTube will do the auto translate, and then if you go into the description of the old videos, there will be a transcript thing that you can then pull, and then you would just paste that into Claude. You can see that look above and fail idea playing out with Russell into our 36 to 38, giving us our high, and then giving us that follow through, exactly what we talked about, right? That is why I respect the Russell so much, is because when we don't have full market participation in the direction that we want to go for continuation, it usually leads to something like this, right? Which is a rotation back down to where our buyers were last. We lost steam into that that VWAP on RTY, and now we're pushing back down, and that gave us our top on ES and NQ for the short term, pulling back to our known buyers here into our 20 to 30 on NQ, and ES into our 60 to 64. Watching to see if we find a responsive bid here. We need Russell to find a low for that to play,
EIA,
but just doing
US
our
supply of
balance
crude
rotation.
oil and petroleum fell in May to the lowest since March 2025. And furthermore, from the EIA, the US product supply of distillate fuel oil fell in May to the lowest since June 2020.
Another incredibly responsive bid at that 220 so far in NQ. Watch your 250, just like before. 250, 260 is your first risk off if you're playing off of that 220. And then we look to see if sell side is willing to defend this lower high. We know we'll be right when that actually does get defended, and then we push below 220 off of a responsive sell at a lower high. So far, we're seeing that right now, watching to see if we can do anything more. Yeah, it's also good as a audit log to see if what I'm saying is nonsense or not, right? Because you'll have the full transcript, and then you can just be like, is this dude just yapping? $50 seconds till the new 15s. I'm assuming that we'll probably get our decision of what we want to do here in the new 15s. I'm assuming that. Just another balance rotation, responsive look off our lows with Russell holding, rotation back up to our highs. This is incredibly important to let us know what we want to do for our next leg. We are just coming back into these buyers who are offsides, right? These are holding still as resistance into our new 15. We want to see if this 310, 340 area is going to continue to take in size. And if we fail to get back up and then our new 15s open like this, then it's probably bearish. If it's still responsive, then we'll look for, right, this to continue to hold, this 240, 220, and then we'll look for, you know, that bid back over 310s and then continuation. So right now, new 15s are opening. We're just watching to see what we do. Same thing on ES here into our 78s, which was our target. Watching Russell to see if we continue to hold, or if this is going to continue to be our fade into these highs. Again, new 15s have opened. We know that there's trapped liquidity here on NQ and on ES. We need to get back above that for more, or those guys will continue to remain offsides. Testing into it now. Big responsive bid. Can we take out the high? That's the question. Or do they still continue to hold it? High taken on ES. Beautiful trade from our 220. I am out there again into 830. Let's see if we get more here. I only had one left, so I had to close into that spike. But if we can get continuation, that'll be really nice for a breach on a pushback over 340. Just so for those that are on YouTube only, you can see that our pathing is just, these are the trades I've been taking off of this buyer at 220, right? Responsive bid off of our lows, follow through into highs. Responsive bids into our lows, into our highs. So just exactly what I've been saying. Okay. Offer still holding highs, trapping that liquidity in Russell flat. It's going to be really hard to get that continuation with Russell flat here. Yeah, if we can flip that 36, then you at least get a rotation up to 42 on Russell. If it continues to just continue to hold 36, then we probably come back down to 24s here first before we go up. Or we have like a real decision. Yeah, the music should be good. It's copyright free. It's just to fill the background, the silence. I appreciate you, Bezel. So the current state, if you are confused, is we're playing around this buyer here at these lows on the 15-minute, and this seller who's absorbing into these highs that we have labeled. So it's just these two boxes on ES, right? Like these highs and this low. And it's the same thing on NQ here. It's these highs and this buyer here into this low. And we're just rotating in between until a decision is made where we can either sustain this high on this look over or sustain this low on this look below. And it's because Russell has hit our target of where we thought our momentum loss would be. And now we're waiting for Russell to choose a direction, either back down into here or, and then we rotate, right? We get a responsive bid off of these lows. Oops, wrong tool. And then that allows the market to then have some room as we travel back up to these highs, right? That then would give NQ the ability to then go, because then we would have full market participation with everything running together. Or, right, we'll flip below this and NQ will breach our pivot lows. ES will breach our pivot lows with Russell below our 24s. And then we'll get a directional shift back down. So we're just watching to see which way this is going to go now that Russell's flat, with ES and NQ balanced. So Sig, are you scalping when you see an offside participant either way, or is a candle setup? Are you asking like why I took that long trade? It's not a candle setup. It is a, I am playing the edge of the auction that I think we're in, and I'm looking for a responsive bid with Russell into an area, with ES into an area. So like if you see where I actually executed that trade, it was at 11:12. And you can see like that was us coming down into our target here at 11:12. I'm looking at the timestamp. That was the ES low, and that also marked the low on NQ. And that also marked the low here on ES, or sorry, on RTY. That was our first little responsive bid, actually, on RTY. So what I was looking for is just an oscillation, right? I knew that NQ and ES were both at our balance objective, right? Our low, where we found responsive buyers last. And I knew that if Russell was going to be able to find a bid, that would be where we would be looking for a rotation back up. So it is purely a order flow based play off of our understanding of where the current buyers are finding a discount, right, and where the current sellers are finding a premium, right? It's just the value rotation. So if I expect everything to find a reflexive bid there and we're still staying within our balance, then I can bid there pretty safely by playing 220 to 210, right? 210 is our risk, and I'm basically just trying to take in size into 220, 230 for a responsive bid when I'm seeing everything objectively still holding the same area, and then I'm just looking to play that up. So we're then be playing it up into our 250, right, as our first target, just in case we don't get the full follow through. But it's just because Russell found that low. So then I'm looking for the rest of the market also to then sustain balance because we saw Russell find that bid. It's nothing is ever candle based. It's all just like, are we still finding are the participants who were there last still participating, or are we seeing a shift? And then it's just like having faith that we'll do the oscillation of, you know, the auction that we're currently trading in. And by faith, I mean, like, I understand that it could lose and that my risk is set, and that if it fails, then we look for the offer on the other side, right? And then we look for the rotation down and I get stopped out. Right? Like, we know objectively, like, there are traders who are offsides into our highs, and that if we flip this, they will then punish and rotate us down. And then all I'm doing is just waiting for us to find those, for Russell to find that low. And I'm using Russell as our signal, or our trigger, I should say, to then look for NQ and ES buyers at our areas of interest on those, right? Like, RTY is our gate, I guess is what you could call it. And then when it finds that active bid, I am then looking for a buy on NQ or ES, whatever I'm playing, at our pivot. That creates our system. I haven't taken anything on this low because we're not seeing strength on Russell yet. And we had the lower highs being put in after we trapped liquidity at our highs, right? So we have a offer who was able to defend our highs, put in a lower high, and now push us down. So I would need to see a pretty clear absorption into our lows for me to feel comfortable taking another long here, personally, right? This is a different setup because on the 15-minute, this is bearish. So for me to take a long here, I need to see a pretty clearly trapped seller into our lows, and then a secondary responsive bid to push us back up with Russell showing interest. That's the only way I take a long here again. So what does that look like? That would be like this dip on NQ getting bought, and then we'd then see a buyer stepping back above 220, 230, and then rebidding that, and then I'd play that rotation back up. If this holds, right, then this is the shift that we were looking for the downside instead. Yeah, using Russell as a gate, or anything really to that has a, you know, influence. If you're using Tick, if you're using Dow Jones, if you're using, you know, like I don't care what you're using, whatever is actually like, go look at what is showing like the first signs of movement on the day to give you an understanding of directionality, right? This isn't a new concept, but we're like, oh yeah, like this seems to show, you know, half a second earlier compared to NQ and ES. It's like, oh, okay, well then I should be using that thing as my leader for the day to let me know when we're bullish or bearish. And then that gives you an idea of when you should be looking for longs or shorts. And we know like Russell is weak as fuck here, and we had our target and we haven't seen that buyer step in yet. So why would I be looking for longs at these lows if I know that Russell is still showing that weakness? So now we're looking at a rejection of our lows on a retest as soon as RTY finds a bid for a potential continuation down, just like our pathing suggests here. So I'm going to be watching for this on both. And we'll look to see what happens after a responsive, a reflexive bid on RTY. Are we able to get back into the range, or does this offer here, right? We have two options, either a look back up and then rotation through, or a hold here with a continuation on both of these names. We're watching to see if we trap liquidity below our pivots, or if we're able to sustain. So now this is where we look at our footprint charts, and we can clearly see where that value edge is. This is the value edge on our current candle. This is the value edge on our current candle. So when we push up into this, does this hold, or are we able to get back in to then rotate up? Do we have Russell follow through as well, or is this going to be a failure? Right now, this is a short until proven otherwise. If RTY can get back above our pivot and we can get back into our zones, then we can play the higher low and then use that the low that we create here as our risk for then the continuation trade up. So right now it's just a short, it's only short viable until we can flip above these pivots. Because we know that there's someone who, if we're going to go down on ES, they will defend this 60 to 65, and then we will rotate down to 440 on ES. That would be my guess. That would give us our idea somewhere into here if we hold this as our pivot. But if we fail, then we would then take out highs most likely, because then this liquidity would be trapped below. So watching to see what we do here. $40 seconds till new 15s. Sorry, this got moved. I don't know when that happened. New 15s opening now. This is EU close. Watching for our retests into our areas with new 15s. Buyer being absorbed so far into 160, 170 on NQ. They would need to sweep below 135, 130, 130 to do anything new here off of that 160 absorption. Or we'll continue to just maintain here. We need to get below 130 off of that 160 seller.
So just to inform, the cabinet meeting has now started. A reminder, the video is on the feed for those interested.
You can see buyers desperately trying here. We need this to absorb into our target and then get back below that 130 for a continuation down. Testing into our pivot here on ES, into our 160, 165. Sorry, our 460, 465. Russell flat still, watching to see if we get this leg down. or if we rotate back up, trapping liquidity here. All we're looking for is a failure to rotate all the way back up, and then we then watch this liquidity get trapped into highs and then sell side step back down on our footprint. We can see them trying here. Or the opposite, right? We bid and then flip, and then we rotate back up through our balance. But regardless, we know exactly what's happening. Offer trying to step down here into 160 from our absorption into 175 again. They need to get below 130 for this to really have legs. Russell still flat, holding lows. Let's see if they can sustain this lower high on NQ. Again, we need that sweeper below 130, 135 for follow through here from this offer who's starting to step down. Testing again into that 160. RTY flat. Absorption very clear still into that 160. But again, we need them to sweep below 130, 135 for follow through. Or we could still trap these sellers if this bid is able to maintain 130, 135, and then we pop 170. There's your primary sweep, trying to push below that 130. Let's see if they can now defend for continuation down with Russell also breaking lows.
Trump says do not blame cyber attack in Minnesota on Iran.
What?
And Trump touts the stock market.
$160 to $180 continuing to hold on NQ, but we failed to sustain at that 130. We trapped into lows, so this could easily become a flip area with that sustain, with Russell maintaining. Watching to see if we flip here. RTY did not breach lows. We maintained. We now have potentially trapped liquidity. Watching for this flip. Really important flip if it holds. This will then be a balanced rotation back through if we get it. Watch to see if they exhaust here or if we're able to sustain, because if we do, right, then it's going to be a rotation back through our known balance off of a failure to objectively shift balance. We watch Russell for momentum. Let's see if we can continue to sustain for rotations back up. Watch RTY here, really important. This is ES into our 60 to 65. RTY trying to push it back, hold this. Into our seller here on NQ as well. Need to flip our 220, 230, and then we can rotate our previous range. But buyers definitely trying to step up with Russell follow through. Yes, exactly. Reclaim 64s, reclaim 220, 230 on NQ, and then you get full rotations with trapped traders below our pivots. Exactly what we're talking about. 64s on ES, right? 220, 230 on NQ. Russell already reclaimed, and if it can hold this reclaim, then we get the full rotation back up, and then we play that oscillation, right, on Russell with NQ and ES re-entering our balance state. If it holds these pivots and we lose momentum here, right, then we've trapped liquidity on the look back in, and then we would look for the lower offer, right? So sell side back below 160 and offer for push down. NQ back below 170 would be my trigger. But I'm just playing off of RTY and our ES flip. Very easy to see that trapped liquidity into that low there. Got to play and respect around it. This is my first risk off here off of our flip on NQ into 260. After we saw that trapped liquidity. Watching to see if we can get the full rotation or if we lose momentum here into 260, 270. Full rotation would be just back up to 320. We're looking for retests here of our primary edges now that we've entered back into balance. So looking for Russell to be able to sustain here as we push back into this like 26. And NQ to be able to sustain this like 220, 230 ideally. And ES be able to sustain the higher lows here as well. If we can see responsive buyers on our look back in, then that will let us know that we want to continue, right? If not, then this will be a potential trap. And then we look for the re-offer on the other side. Wait for RTY to find that low. Full move down on NQ, way more volatile. ES and RTY still holding our pivots, no change. NQ is the one that's dragging it down here. They're trying to take in size here at 64s on ES and this 180 on NQ. Russell still no low found yet. We're watching to see if these buyers get absorbed here into 180 and 64 on ES, or we are able to sustain and then pop back up. ES RTY is still holding pivots, but there is a seller who is trying to take in size from buyers here. Again, this 180, 190, and this 64 area on ES. Watching to see if they are shifting us down here. If they're going to hold this, we want to see them sustain that high at 195, I think. And then flip us below for rotations back down. Right now it's still just responsive. We need to see them continue to trap here.
Trump says Iran is doing very poorly. And Trump is saying Iran is having a hard time.
Okay.
Trump says Iran has been dishonest to deal with.
New 15's opening above value of previous candle. Watching to see if we sustain that. Or if we look back into value of our previous 15. RTY is continuing to hold our pivot.
Trump says want defense firms to move fast.
Sorry, I'm just zooming out a little so you can see exactly what we're doing. Our zones are labeled anyways. LBAF, look below and fail area. LAAF, look above and fail. Look below, look above. Look above, failed. Rotation down, look below, failed. Rotation up. Inside our balance here. Same thing on ES, still maintaining. Looks like rotation's up to me personally. As long as we're still here, I need the flip below for me to care. Russell flat. Very clear where we need to shift here on NQ for me to care. Same thing on ES. Later, Sai.
Trump says soon Iran won't have some military capacity left.
If you're playing the hold of our look below and fails on ES and NQ, this is your first risk off as we come back up into our absorption. Potential follow through here with Russell having room up to 36. We're watching to see if we hold, but really nice bid at our 64, just like we talked about. Rotation back up to our absorption where we have circled again. Someone very clearly taking in size into 76 to 84. Watching to see if this is a loss of momentum here. Same thing on NQ into our 260 to 310. This is where they were taking in size on NQ. Yeah, Russell held lows at our 21s. No push below, right? Very clear higher low here, trapping liquidity. And then we just get another rotation because we got a failure to sustain below. It is what it is. Beautiful.
Chevron expects to recover its Venezuela debt by early 2027.
I don't know why that photo didn't post. It's kind of annoying. But here's the photo that I just drew with that explanation that I just said. I don't know why it didn't happen. But very clear balance that we're trading within. Just our structure that we've already highlighted and talked about. Nothing here until we can flip. This is just Russell rejecting
US Treasury Secretary Bessent says core inflation is low and consumer confidence is strong. So Bessent now speaking at the cabinet meeting.
Man, I wish I could turn off indicators for like a specific window without having to like go through each and every one of them. Like I'd love to have the ones on for Russell, but then have everything off for ES and NQ so we can just play around our zones that we have drawn. There's nothing more here for ES and NQ. It's a full rotation of our ranges off of failure to sustain below with Russell into VWAP. So for me, I don't think that there's anything until we see a very clear hold above these levels and a willingness to actually continue. Or this will just be another trap at our bell high. So this is an exit. Right, a take profit, and then we look to see if we get continuation or if they're able to actually flip this. Like it says on chart, like if we can hold above, I'm bullish for the rest of the session. If we can sustain it and flip. But if these areas continue to just show as sell side, then there's not much here unless we're going to trap, look back below, and then rotate down, right? It's a fade. You can see that there's a lot of profit taking into these highs. Lots of selling here. On both NQ and ES on the 15 into our zones. Yeah, you'd want them to do it into like this. This like 27, sorry, 77 area, 76. Or we're just gonna come back down. I'm just like on Twitter right now. The amount of people who like refuse to take profit as we push into a level is insane to me. There's this guy who's like lost so much money the past 2 weeks today. 3 trades within 1 point of take profit became losses. I am simply at a loss for
Trump, when
words.
asked about getting diplomacy back on track with Iran, says we just want to win.
I just don't know how it doesn't fill 1 point away. Like, bro, just like what? Like pyramid out? Are you dumb? Like, what are we doing? Like the level to level traders who like refuse to take profit as we push into an area are just like so ego driven. I don't understand it. Like, you're really gonna let a trade walk back on you fully because it didn't go to your random ass like level on a horizontal level on a chart. Like, are you dumb?
Trump on Iran, just repeating that they'll be hitting them very hard.
I'd rather miss a leg than let a trade fully come back on me because my ego got in the way. Like, I take profit early 90% of the time, but I've locked in and secured money, which is the important part. There's always another entry if we can find, you know, the secondary bid. Like, it doesn't matter to me.
Trump on Hamas disarmament says we have an understanding with Israel.
We have a divergence here with RTY, lower high with NQ and ES pushing highs of this range, this little micro range. Watching. We're seeing that sellers are trying to absorb at 29s on Russell right now. 29 to 31. If they put in this lower high leg and we can't get over 29 to 31, I think we fade this on NQES. Let's see what they do into that. Really responsive buyers so far, trying on new 15s here at our high edge. See if they can actually sustain the look above, or this fails again and then we rotate back through our balance. Again, we have Russell diverging. We have NQ trying to lead this breakout, holding our value of previous 15-minute candles, but we understand that this is a potential fade if we can't sustain above. There's your Russell rejection at our 29 to 31 that I was talking about that leads to that NQ trap, an ES trap. And your rotation back down. So we'll see if we get continuation now, or if this bounces here with RTY now into target from our rejection of 29s. And I don't know. Makes for a good first risk off though, if you're playing that. And let's see if Russell continues to lead down, or if we're going to be able to bounce here and then go for the look above. If we exhaust sellers. Does this make sense, like what I'm saying? Do you see like the zones playing? Do you see how like this is your risk off until we flip and actually can sustain? Do you see the Russell divergence that I'm talking about? Like, do you see the things that I'm saying on chart? Because they give you opportunity if you do. If not, like, I just don't want you to get chopped up. Ask questions if you need to.
Trump on Iran attack says we've already gone big.
We're holding our lows pretty well so far, NES. We just need to see initiative buys above our 490 for anything real. We absorbed pretty well into 80s. But if there's still just like no initiative push, right, like it is what it is. But look at our lows on these footprint candles. Like Southside really tried to hammer down and got taken in so far, right? We just need to see like actual willingness to push off of these areas, or it doesn't matter. Because like, think about it like this. If we see these buyers trying into these highs, right, but they fade, right, they exhaust themselves. And what does that mean, an exhaust? If they don't have enough ammo to actually follow through on the look over, and then they push back below to these sellers, the sellers will take advantage of that, right? Because then they just showed that buyers don't have the ammunition that they need to actually continue us out, and then we just look for that reoffer back below into these sellers, and then
Trump on Iran says Envoy Witkoff,
right?
Kushner, and VP Vance are involved in talks. Rubio as well.
We really need to see this to be an incredibly active bid above these highs, and then we can look for expansion potential, right? But we need, like I said, we need them to show real speed, size, confidence that this isn't just going to be another fade, look below rotation. And ideally we have Russell above our pivot here at 29 to 31 for that move to then show that interest above for rotations up to 38, allowing for NQ and ES to then breach, right? And go
Trump,
for
when asked if if a deal can be made with Iran, it says, "I'm losing faith because they lie."
So like we're seeing them try to step up in here now into 90s on ES. We need follow through, right? Because like if Russell rejects here, this is then going to trap that liquidity, and then we will look for a fade back below if we don't have full market participation. If RTY can get over this, then we can at least come up to 38s again, right? But we just really need follow through on these highs. Because again, like an active bid who's pushing but then isn't able to sustain, right? It's just a lot of effort being exuded here, but then there's no reward, right? And then we will then punish those traders because they were unable to actually do anything with all of this liquidity that they're pushing. So that's why it's really important to be looking for that potential fade if these guys are unable to actually do what they need to do here, and then this becomes like that trapped liquidity, right? But if they're able to sustain, then great. We get an actual breach. We look for the retest, and then we are able to go on our, our continuation. So really important that we see that. Looking above on Russell, see if we can get that follow through. Again, if we can do that, then we can at least come back up into these highs.
And the cabinet meeting with Trump has now ended.
I think the open of the new 15s in 1 minute will determine our direction, if we can actually sustain here. I think you'll know in 1 minute, Jason. You can see that we're trying to defend this bid right now on NQ and ES following our pathing. If we can actually hold this and close above our zone, I think we're in a pretty good spot. This looks pretty good so far. But I would love to see a close on the 15. We at least have room up the Russell VWAP, you know? Which is sitting at 34.20 right now, 34.2. New 15s have opened. This could potentially be the end of the move if we exhaust here with Russell into target following our pathing. Watching to see if we lose it or if we're able to sustain. I expect that RTY flags here into 34. And then we watch to see if we can hold above these previous highs for continuation now that we're pushing into target from the flip of our 29 to 31. We're at target here on NQ for me at 380. And we've done the full pathing now on ES for me personally. So watching to see what happens now if Russell starts to fade here. Just kind of makes sense without like an explosive follow through. We just wait for RTY to find the pullback now. Again, probably into 34s if it was going to do it. And then we look to see what happens. Good amount of size being taken in into 95 to 93 right now on EOS. See if they can continue to defend that or if that becomes our flip. Later, OD. Have a great weekend. I'm going to deleting this now that it's played. Again, watching to see if they continue to take in size here. Interesting little area. 93 to 95. So this is what we know right now. We know that there is a buyer who's a bit screwed in this high right here that got taken in about 600 lots. And we know that there is a passive buyer who's trying to take in size here at this 93. So we have these two areas of interest here, and we're watching to see who's going to win this out. We know that Russell went directly to our target at our 38s and rejected, and we lost all momentum in the market, just like we talked about. We're now watching to see if buy side can defend this 34, right, for that higher low, or if this is going to do the full rotation back through our oscillation that we identified, right? So we're really keeping an eye now to see what's going to happen here. We can see them continuously trying to take in. New 15s have opened. So incredibly important area to let us know who's going to win this out. If RTY can find this low here, if we can get back over, find this bid and step up back above this guy, then maybe there's continuation potential. But right now, this is looking a little weak. Watching to see if something like this occurs for this rotation back here, just with who we identified. I need to see Russell find a bid here into this 34 if we're going to be able to continue to try to take in size here, and then at least rotate back up to our known seller up at highs. Right now it's a battle to try to shift this level if it's going to do this secondary rotation here. RTY can find this bid, we might be okay. NQ, nothing to really talk about. We did the full rotation. We went to target. We're back to our level of interest. We either, sustain here and then rotate up again, or we look below and then this becomes our rotation down, right? Like nothing new, business as usual. So just keep an eye on Russell to see which way we're going to breach here. Good bid so far at our 34. Continuing to take in that size here at our 93, 95 with Russell bidding. This is where we figure out directionally where we're headed on this retest. If sell side is aggressive, I'm just going to extend this on retest and rejects this, and then we offer below 93s, then I think this move is done. If we're able to sustain and balance in between and show interest here at this 93, 95, and then are able to get above, then we're good to go. We're just battling between these two participants here, with RTY being able to hold that higher low and NQ being able to hold our pivot, right? Just like we talked about. There's nothing new until proven otherwise. Just coming back up into our offer, same thing on NQ, just like on ES. Okay, this is again where you need to see a pretty responsive secondary bid on ES, ideally here into this 95 if it's going to go up from here. If not, right, this will be a pretty exhaustive how do I word this? This is basically buy side's attempt to try to build the higher low, and if they fail to sustain here, we'd then be looking for an aggressive sweep below 93s for then a rotation in the opposite direction.
The Wall Street Journal, Fed's Barkin says it's a close call whether rates are high enough to bring inflation down. Don't know if I would have voted higher for rates this week. Barkin says, do you have to add some restraint? I think that's the question, and says it does not feel like a tight labour market at the moment.
I will say, as soon as those Barkin comments went on, they started advertising 503 and 504 on Dom. We'll see if that acts as a magnet, if we can sustain this 93, 95 here, or if something shifts. Again, we've got directional ideas for both sides. We've got our pivot, we've got our participants, just looking to see what we do. Again, they're advertising 503, 504 on Dom as soon as those Barkin comments went live with a bid at 95s. Back to our seller here at 500s, see if they're still passively willing to take in, or if we are able to flip. If you're playing off of 95 or 93, this would be your first target, in my opinion, for 5 points into 98, 99, right? and then we watch to see if we can get this next leg into that advertised offer up at 503, 504. Same thing with NQ here. You want to see an active bid try to step over 380, or this is going to be your first risk off following our pathing from our bid at our 310 low we called with Russell into our 34. So now we're looking to see if secondary buyers can step in. Right now we have just a reflexive bid at our lows, right? Same participants as before. Now this is where we can actively punish shorts who tried to short those lows if we can see an active bid try to sweep these highs. If they can effectively sweep highs here, and then a bid steps, we then punish shorts at lows, and then we can get a pretty sizable spike into that target if they're able to achieve this here into our highs. Just watching to see if anything is going to shift. You can see they tried to sweep there. There's an attempt. About 379 contracts were taken in on ES on that wick.
Barkin added that price increases are moving through the economy unevenly.
Says Russell back into our 38. Big pivot high. So I really hope that you see the beauty or the reason why we look for that higher low, right? We have an area of interest where we're seeing a participant located, and then we look for that higher low like we have pathed, right? Then this becomes our risk, right? Where they initiated, and then we look for them to then try to defend that edge. That creates our risk to reward for us for that leg, because we now have a reason to be in that play, right? This then becomes our risk, because we now know where that initiation occurred and we're looking for that rotation back up. If we can get that secondary leg, like again, like we just talked about, then we look for a responsive bid above, and then we look for them to then actively try to hold and defend highs for that next leg up. But that becomes our risk to reward for rotations, because we now know that these guys are trapped into our lows and we're looking for that secondary buyer to step up, and that becomes our risk to reward. And you can either put your stop at that wick low, or just at your pivot low, but this is of course a bit tighter and has the potential to chop you out on any sort of move that's illiquid. So I usually like to put it on the actual low and then look to then see initiative bids at on this rotation. But when we have full market participation into a zone like this, with Russell being responsive, and we have a known area where they're taking in size, and we have NQ also pushing into target, right? We're looking for even just a reflexive bid up. It just makes sense. Even if we're not going to get follow through here at these highs, at least you get that reflexive bid. And depending on what you're playing, right, it could be still very profitable. Like this rotation on NQ from 310 to 350 is still 40 points on NQ. Like that's great. Just into target, right? And then if we're trying to get follow through now into our 60, if we can get this bid to flip and hold and get back over 80s, then we're in a really great position.
We do get the weekly Baker Hughes rig count numbers. Total rigs saw a prior read of 587, while oil rigs saw a prior read of 450.
And again, like this is just it's like a high probability reflexive bid. It doesn't need to have follow through for you to make money, as long as you are selling into known participants, because you're buying with participants, you're selling with participants, you're just trading the edges, right? And you want to be taking off into those edges, because we know that we're rotating between two larger participants who are actively, our auction edges. We don't have a breakout yet on the table. And so you take what's being offered, and then you can let a runner run. If you have it with Russell leading to the upside, I think the potential is high. If we lose momentum on Russell, right, then we have to then be like, oh, okay, well, they tried, they failed, and that was the exhaustion into highs again, and then that's that. But as long as RTY is showing interest, like we've got room to maybe like 41, 42 on Russell. We'll see. The issue stems is if Russell gets to that 41, 42 target and NQ and ES aren't able to take out highs here. That means that they're just continuing to be absorbed, and then Russell loses momentum, and then that's when sell side is on ES, NQ, and RTY all at the same time, right? Because now we've hit a wall on all three. So that's the concern, because we already know that someone was taking in size here before, right, previously, and we haven't shown that interest above. We had that failed sweep on that pop into 503, right, with those 379 contracts taken. And now it's like, okay, well, do we get follow through here? Right, again, we trade from participant to participant until proven that we want to expand. We take the crumbs. We don't have the liquidity to move the market, they do, and so we need to respect and trade around them until we actually are able to see that shift. As long as you're respecting your edges, right, respecting where these participants are, you can make money. It's when you get greedy and you try to hold for something that isn't actually being seen yet, that's when things can get rough. Have a good one, Jason.
So shortly expecting the Baker Hughes rig count data for the week. Total rig count at 588, 588. That's a gain on one rig from last week. and oil rigs 451, 451, so that's the gain of 1 rig from last week.
RTY leading us up, actively able to hold our previous highs at that 38, allowing for this bid to go up. They're still advertising into 506 here. They've moved offer on ES up into our first target where we thought we would be off that wick. ES able to hold, follow through on our pathing from our edge lows. Again, as long as RTY has room to run and we have momentum, it has potential legs into 42, in my opinion. Let's see what they can do here. We just play the momentum of the market moving together, right? Held our lows, now trying to flip highs. You don't need to overcomplicate it. slow but steady. Not much to talk about, right? Just following our plan. I don't really know what else to say. I think most people are done trading. It'll probably be slow for the next, hour, maybe 2 hours. If just as we're finishing up lunch and then going into our power hour. We'll see. But just uptrend since we flipped our pivot. Our levels have been really, really solid. Russell continuing to lead up. We flipped VWAP as supportive on RTY, just into our top zone. I doubt that we're going to get a ton of speed until we see RTY showing interest over maybe like 42. We just need to show acceptance above value. Right now we're just into our top edge of our zones, right? So definitely potential for a loss of momentum, some exhaustion up here if we can't get the follow through. But I mean, again, things look okay. Like our zone states, right? As long as we're able to sustain our flip of our zone, it's bullish on hold above. So we are making those highs, new highs since that flip, right? And nothing really do. We found that buyer willing to take in sellers on ES into that 93.95. We're able to then bid that higher low at 95, and then we've been able to rotate up since. NQ again was able to hold our 310 on our flip. We are now holding our 74, which is our flip, and now we're pushing up. Targets above like 510, 511 area on NQ, or sorry, on ES. And NQ, I'm looking at like 470 is our first real area of interest from Globex. Honestly, it's like this 450 to 470 area that I'm a bit worried about short term. We can see that this has just been kind of the flip. I'm gonna mark this as just a zone so you can visualize this a bit better. So I want to see like pretty clear acceptance over this 470, 480 for upside, or this might be just like where we fail into 450 into 480. But if we can get over it, it looks good. What is that? 514? Oh, yeah. That's where, that's my next target as well for EOS. It's just that high. That wick high area. And that, but the crazy part is like for NQ, that's like 680. That's so far away. Structure wise. Yeah. We're already seeing like some absorption here on NQ into 15s. That's a little dramatic with offer now trying to step down at like what, it's like 405, 410. Let's see if they fail here. Definitely trying. Dude, I can't even type fast enough. We're going to our target now. So funny. Okay. Like trying to like create your next leg and where we're targeting, and there we go. All right, well that's target, boys. This is where we were expecting ES to head up into these wick highs into our 508, 515 area. This is target 512 for me. ES, right, and NQ here into our 460, 480. These are the two areas of interest. If we can flip above 480, I am definitely interested in potential rotations up, back up to 560. We would just need to flip this this balance here. But really nice push off of our hold. I mean, everything on our plan is playing out. Russell leading, push up, continuation, really respectful at our edges, right? Incredibly responsive at our areas of interest on our levels. I mean, I could not be happier with how things are going. Beautiful hold on our look above area, right? Bullish on hold. Immediately reactive on actual acceptance. So yeah, I mean, even on ES, this is great points. NQ is great points. I hope you're making money. The only way that I see you're not doing it is if you're literally not reading and not respecting levels and not playing what we're talking about, which is right, correctable. But it's something that you definitely want to be like, why am I not following the plan that is in place, right? Like, why am I actively sabotaging myself? And then change it, right? But like everything's played to a T. I don't really have much to say. What a beautiful rotation. And again, like this is why we respect the lower high idea so much, is because when we're actually able to show interest above, like these go crazy, right? That higher low, trap below, the bid actually is holding, then we rotate up. So all of our, from in the future, we're gonna have a pivot.
We are seeing a little bit of strength in the Japanese yen here, just a little bit. Not seeing anything to indicate this, but we'll keep looking up.
We'll have a internal pivot that looks like this, and then we have external pivots which control our directional edge.
So a reminder, we did get a 9:22 a.m. Eastern Time that US Treasury had informed banks they may intervene in the yen market today. That was according to a source familiar with the matter. We are still seeing some continued strength in the yen.
So this is like an internal structure, and then this determines if we're going to head up to our high or our low, right? And then these control the directional. So do you see how this says UT and these say DT? So this is your downtrend target on a failure of this holding. This is your uptrend target on a hold of these, right? On our breach outside. That's how this works. And then these become internal targets based off of our value structure. So that's how it'll be worded from now on. And again, we have a new pivot. We have our battle line, and then we have our day origin. So these are our two main pivots on the day. And they're explained in the morning read. So in the morning read, we now have an understanding of this new responsive pivot. So we can look on our NQ here and see that the day origin pivot is the structure the closing leg broke from. Defend equals the move stands, reclaim equals the day is negated. So this is the previous day's structure that we need to maintain if we want to continue in the direction that we're going, right? And then that is our internal zone, right? That's that internal, basically the point of interest to determine if we're going to rotate back down to this lower structure or rotate up to that upper structure. And then our battle line is going to then determine the overall direction of the market for where we're actually trying to hold within, right? So day origin is the area where we want to defend from the previous session. And then the battle line is the one that actually changes or shifts our direction overall. So we have two now pivots to play around, and they're both labeled and they're talked about within your morning read now, and give you complete understanding of how and where you should be looking to trade. So this is for NQ. For
Just to inform,
ES.
it could be a suspected yen intervention here that we might be seeing continued strength in the Japanese yen.
Right. So now these are our new pivots to play around and our zones and areas of interest. And everything is labeled. So you have your targets and you have the reason why it's a target, right? So high value, the high volume edge, LVN, naked POC, our gap, our unfinished auction, right? Everything is labeled with the reason why we're interested in those areas. I really hope that you're willing to spend the 2 minutes that it takes to just read and then look. It will help you out a lot.
So US stocks indexes is 10 gains, the S&P 500 up 0.7%, then Nasdaq up 0.9%, and the Dow up 0.6%. Okay, we're not seeing any sort of further confirmation of a yen intervention here, so it's still suspected. But just to keep you informed, if you know any more, we'll let you know.
Again, I think the next rotation will be if we can find support above our 380 from a supportive hold of 360 here. And then we have room for a rotation up to 560 to 590, like this area here. I've labeled it as a look above and fail because that's kind of what's happened on multiple attempts here in our Globex auction. And we'll just see how that plays out. I bet we could probably just put a fixed range on this here. Yeah. And then there's your levels, right? So if we can gain support back over 580, I'd expect a rotation back up to this 565. I can even make this a bit bigger if that's helpful, just to go up to that edge. So now you have an understanding of why we're looking for that, some excess outside of that value. And then if we're able to sustain, right, on a hold over 480, we'd be expecting rotations back up to the POC, because then we've recovered this Globex auction. So right now it's a battle to try to get back into this Globex auction. And if we can do that, we're in a good position. I'm also going to add one line here that I think is really important, which is this high volume edge within this auction, where the LVN is. And I'm just going to make this a micro pivot where I would expect price to either reject or defend on first test. Where I expect price to reject on first test. So what I mean by that is I expect that this is going to be where we will retest 480. So I'm expecting this to happen, is if we see this pop here from our defense of 460 and we get this bid over 480 here, I would expect us to rotate up to 516, 530, and then offer this, retest this 480, and then go for POC if we hold here. So I'm expecting some sort of structure like this to occur on your next leg, just at the LVN and that high volume node edge. If that can sustain, then you just look for that bid to then defend this balance edge here on retest, and then we would go to POC. But yeah, I don't know. I'm probably out of here. Same idea on ES. If we can sustain above this 516, 525, 545 next as targets. Russell looking above our 42s, has room up to 52. What am I doing this weekend? I've got tickets to go see the Odyssey in IMAX. That's really my only plan this weekend. I'm going with my dad and my brother. I had to buy tickets 3 weeks in advance because they were sold out. Insane. Spider-Man was good? Nice. I didn't even know there was a new Spider-Man movie. What the hell? I'll have to go. Expected rotation on hold of 480, 460. What else can I say? Oh, dude, I watched, what was that? Disclosure Day? Holy crap, what a bad movie. I watched that recently. Jesus, what a bad movie. I don't know, like, who approved that script or how they got, like, the actors that they did, but Jesus. I thought it was, like, AI slop. That's what it felt like. I never understand it when like actors who are very famous, like what's her name, Emily Blunt, like is like pretty famous. Like, how does she look at a script like that and be like, yeah, this is it, I want to do this? I just don't understand when actors are like that. Yeah, I guess, man, it's gotta be. You would just think, like, at that point in their career,
So the dollar yen at session though, last down 0.71%.
Where like they're willing to just like play the things that they actually want.
So just to inform, we haven't still found any confirmation. It could be a suspected yen intervention. It could just be yen strength, but we'll keep looking.
And again, I think that the next leg is triggered if Russell can sustain this 42 to 38. I think that that's probably your driving force for this next leg. If we're going to actually be able to hold, will be this move. If this fails, right, and then we establish back below 38s, then you just look for that oscillation again. I think that that's probably going to be your driving force into end of day. And again, this is just our battle for these areas where this is our look above, fail, and we need to like very clearly sustain and hold this, and then we'll rotate up if we can do that on both ES and NQ. So look for this to build out here, and if we can sustain with Russell finding this low into this pivot, this gives you your next leg. We know that this is us trying to get back into an auction on NQ, so it's an incredibly important area if we're going to be able to do something new. I think that this move on NQ is a bit dramatic. I think you're just waiting for Russell to find
So
this
again, the
low.
yen advances to a session high of 158, spot 34 per the US dollar.
But we'll see. You should get a retest of 480 here, and then that'll let you know what the offer will do. But this is just the bid stepping out of the way. When you see moves like this is like fake news in my opinion. Just watch for the retest to see if we get the lower offer. Same buyers are still here. If this then like rejects, then okay, yeah, maybe this then has follow through into this node, right, on our footprint. But Russell's still holding where it needs. And we watch to just see if we make a lower leg here. And then these guys are still offsides above. Yeah, just keep that in mind, right? Very clear node and value play here into that edge. But don't get caught in 30-second chart noise when we have higher time frame pathing and we are able to visualize where participation is located. As long as we're maintaining this, like again, this 42 to 38, I think that there's a lot of potential for continuation. If this fails, then I would looking for more so push back down. So just let this set up, let it build for a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a waiting game. Watch Russell find that low. I think you're just looking for a trap below this liquidity. And then we see if we can then reclaim and then go for the pop. Yeah, later, have a good one, man. Where would we head if this isn't going to hold? We don't even like structurally have a great area of interest below short term. Globex auction low. Needs to accept above. Look for RTY. Responsive RTY. Okay, yeah, structurally, we just like really don't have much here. This will probably be your pullback here into this LVN. If anywhere. If not, then you're just rotating back to your 75 here into this value edge off of the failure to establish. All right. Yeah, again, just play with Russell. Look to see if it can find that bid. If it can, you're in a good position. If it fails here, right, this is our PVZ value edge on PVZ, right? We have a very clear range that we're trying to establish above. It makes sense for some selling to occur and a loss of momentum there, but we're watching to see if we can build and hold here. Why does this area matter? Well, it is our flip of our VWAP and our big pivot here. We were trading between this zone and this zone, right? So if we can establish above and hold this as supportive, I would think that we would head up here. That makes the most sense to me. We want Russell follow through on our moves to give us that strength in our trend. We're just channeling up on Russell right now. So as long as this is maintaining, I have a bullish bias. If we fail and get back below, then I would have a bearish bias, right? For this rotation back through our known auction that we've been trading. Just like, don't overcomplicate shit. Just wait for Russell to find that responsive bid at our pivot, look for NQ and ES to recover areas of interest, see if we get the continuation on Russell, and then play when all things are moving in the same direction together. That is how you get like solid confluence on your trades that are responsive, so that you don't just sit in neutral positions that then, you know, stop you out after 40 minutes or you know, finally break in the direction you want. Like, we want responsive action immediately. So play off of your Russell pivots and then look to see if NQ and ES can recover their pivots at the same time. And then look for that reflexive bid across the market when everything is getting, you know, just a little bit movement up, right? That's all we need to make money as retail traders. We just need responsive bids between our pivots. Play into the known seller, right? Take off your first risk, leave a runner, let that thing work for itself. Beautiful bid off of our edge low on ES at 508 with Russell at our 42s. And then NQ getting an incredibly responsive bid at our 55s with that move, right? So I don't know if we're going to get follow through. Again, like, we're just trading up into our active seller. But if Russell can sustain here, then you're good to go, man. I would assume. Just play the higher lows until they stop doing it, and then look for the shift, look for the trap, and then look for the secondary. But full plan is played on morning read, so now it's just about retracing, you know, the opening gap structure and seeing if we get continuation and trying to build out this area up here. I don't know if it plays or not. I don't have a plan for this area, right? This is all just us now trying to trade Globex structure. So we either, you know, hold it, or we'll revert back to VWAPs for the next hour, and then we'll bid from that VWAP reversion if we can't sustain up here. That would be my guess. Where, like, if we can't get continuation, then we have to come back down to our value, right? You know, quote unquote value edge, which is our value high and VWAP area, where we'd then be looking for responsive bids. That's the only thing that makes sense. That's usually how 2 to 3 plays, which is just like profit taking, and then you have your last hour of rebalancing, and then of course your more volatile last 10 minutes with MOC with final rebalancing into the weekend. Yeah, end of the month, end of the week. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but the full plan's played, and I'm happy. I would just expect reversions to VWAP here if we continue to fail at these highs. So if Russell is able to sustain here, I would expect ES and NQ to come back down to VWAP while that's happening, and then we look for responsive bids. That would be my play. But I'm gonna head out. It's 2. I'm done. I've been staying, I feel like, too late in my opinion. I like the clean 10 to 12 session, but I always feel bad because I don't think people are awake yet. And then they try to play midday and then get absolutely ruined. So I don't really know the best way to go about it. I'm sorry, man. Migraines are the worst. But yeah, I've got nothing up here on our indicator. So this is just a stair climb up kind of situation. You know what you could probably do? What my guess would be is probably just watch to see if we can hold that like 0.5618, and then look to see if we can get a continuation off this leg, right? If we do that, then we don't need to do the full reversion trade. So you're looking for a pretty responsive bid here as we push down into that 0.5618. If not, then I would expect that you're not going to find a low until we hit VWAP across the board. That's usually the midday play, is just we exhausted buyers in highs, they're stepping out of the way. We're now going to revert back down to where value is established, right? Where we find a acceptable price, and then we go for continuation once we come back down to that value area, right? That's usually your midday play. All right, I'm out of here regardless. I don't want to. I'm gonna stay for the whole session if I stay any longer. I'll give some updates in Discord if I see anything or if I'm around. But I'm gonna go walk the doggo, and if I see something when I come back, I'll post it in Discord chat. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I'll have this indicator released relatively soon. I think we're almost there. I just want to do a bit more forward testing with it, but I'm really happy with our levels and with the plays that it's calling. Really, really happy with it so far. And we've now been able to experience it in a balanced market as well as a one-time framing down market. So we know that it works in both states, which is sick. I just need to get the automation together and then we're good. But like, look at this. I just wanted, again, before I go, I'm not going to be looking at any trades, but look at the difference in this auction state from when we were selling and then into FOMC. Do we see like the very clear shift where we open inside value, right? Which is a balanced day. So we open inside value of the previous day. And this is the shift after FOMC. This is a really important day. What do we do here in this value? Where do we open? Where do we hold? Well, we hold the value high, right, into open after a bounce. But the open is the most important part and where we defended, right? That's that really aggressive and willingness to hold POC from the previous day without a need to come down further, which is a really important area to let us know direction, what we want to do. And you can see that we're seeing that same responsive retest of POC from the previous day. What do we look for on the 15-minute chart for continuation potential? Right? This looks for the same thing. So I want you to frame your context as well with that idea where treat like these daily profiles as the same as your 15-minute profiles where you're looking for continuation trade. And we're looking for responsive bids from the previous day in these same areas if we're going to get a responsive bullish continuation in that direction, right? That's a great, easy way to find context very quickly. Just like here, right? This is the POC from the previous day to value high. This is exactly the same setups that we take on the 15-minute for intraday trading where we're scalping ranges. They act as the same resistance, right? So we want to see that acceptance, and then we want to see that continuation potential. If we start to hold that as resistance, right? If we open below and then we're looking for this to then reject and continue down in a one-time framing down. When we're starting to do the one-time framing up, we want to be holding that value to POC for that continuation. And ideally, like the most bullish hold, of course, is going to be your hold of just value high from the previous day. But if we need to come down, we're always going to be watching for that pop at POC as a great context that we don't need to then fully rotate through. And again, that's just like, here's your, if you need a cheat sheet, of course the image is too large. Second. Right, here are your core concepts of the rules that we talk about for those that are on stream. Right. So this is that idea here. If price reacts strong from a POC, that counts as a disruption of rule 1. So if price accepts into a balance area, it is likely to revert to the other side of balance. So the shift of that is if we have a strong reaction from POC, then we don't need to do the full rotation through our distribution, which is that idea that I just talked about. So what we're watching for is that strong reaction from the day before to then let us know directionality of where we can go. If we don't see that strong reaction and we push through, then it's like, okay, well then this is right, a full rotation through, and then we'll be looking for that acceptance below POC and then a pushback below value low for then continuation through, right? It's just like, these are your basic concepts of AMT here, but same thing applies on the 5-minute, the 15-minute, the daily, the weekly, right? You can use these same concepts for all of them. And that's like what the general idea of the indicator is based off of as well. It's just acceptance outside of value, both intraday and weekly. That determines our how our state, that then gives us how we're going to be playing, the market. Right. So again, we establish our value area here with our ceiling to our floor. It gives us our direction of where we want to sustain, where we want to hold. This is the green zones are your look below and fail, where we're looking for price to get trapped, and then we look for the secondary buyers on the look back above. Your red zone is, of course, your look above and fail, where price tries to sustain or tries to trap above, and then you look for that lower high and then rotation through. You can see how am I going to do this? Here, let me go to a 1-minute chart, and then you can see at the open exactly that idea playing out. So I'm just going to put drawings on here, and then you can see that shift when we're open above, and then we get that offer and that trap below yesterday on the gap fill, where we trap above and then we re-offer below, and then that leads to that rotation down. We can see that responsive bid at our zone on first test. So if you're going to be playing like the 9:30 to 10 open before I get here, right, we're just looking for reactions at these zones from our open. I don't play until like 10.
According to Fox News, KF-35
So me,
crashes
this
near
was the
California Marine Corps Air Station.
And we played this short from down to here, and then we played the flip. This bid back over 64s on acceptance with Russell acceptance, and our flip of our VWAP was beautiful for this rotation up, but really responsive off our edges. All right, yeah, I'm out of here. Peace. Ellie, they're posted in Discord, man. I'm out of here though. I think I've showed a decent amount of the trades today on Discord, in stream as well, but I'm out. I'm not about to rehash through all of them. Later, Czar. I'll see you guys on Monday.